Brent Smith is another one of our sponsors. Haven't had him speak for a while, so it's great to have him back and hear what he's up to. He's a building consultant. He's right in the forefront of the industry, is looking at deals, giving us feedback on what's working, what's not, and right at the coalface. So let me just see if I can get Brent on the line. Just give me 2 seconds.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, buddy. I'm just bringing you up there, Matt. Hey, just can't see your video there, mate. It seems to have...
How do I turn it on?
Oh, it's coming. There we go. There's your face.
Go.
Awesome, mate.
Jeez, I'm close, aren't
I? That's all good, mate. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Just turn down I think I can hear the audio in the background there, mate. It's just the delay might get us caught up. But, hey, mate, it's good to have you here. I haven't had you speaking for a little while, and I know we've been apart for some time due to COVID, but hopefully next month we'll be back in the room and chatting about it. But we've got some good stuff to share tonight from you. How's it all been looking from your point of view since COVID started?
Good, mate. Yeah, look, there's still activity in the building and pest market from a consumer's perspective. There's people out there with money still. They're doing deals. Those with jobs are looking to get into property, whether it's investment or their own homes. So I'm still doing, a fair percentage of my business is pre-purchase work.
Yep.
And on top of that, I've got my builders are pretty good as well. So all my stage inspection work, handover type reports, practical completion and what have you. My builders are busy. They're saying they're still signing contracts and they're doing projects. So I'm employed.
Yeah, okay, it's all ticking along. Yeah, that's great, mate. Hey,
as usual, people are fighting. And so I've got court work as well.
Yeah, well, that's another side to your business. We can touch on that as well, just managing those disputes that are happening there. It's good. A lot of people may not know that that's some of the work that you do and that the problems that you solve. So, yeah, it's good. It's good to have you here, mate. I'll just bring up your slides and we can have a look and give us a bit of an intro, mate, of where you've come from and what you're doing today.
Yeah, mate. Look, I started life as a carpenter and joiner. I left school and got an apprenticeship in the 90s when interest rates were about 19%. I bought my first house at 19, 20 years old, something like that.
Yep.
So I've been a property owner for a long time. Kept studying, got my builder's license. Kept studying, got an inspector's license. Kept studying. About 5 years ago, I was kind of doing the pest inspections, but I had a guy that was doing them with me. He retired, so I outperformed him, and basically I had to go. I gave myself another job. Really, I had to get into the pest side of things as well.
Yep.
I'm a swimming pool safety barrier officer, or I was, and I do a lot of work, personal development work, life coaching, that type of thing too. So that helps in the dispute side of things.
Yeah, very well rounded, mate. I'm sure you get some colourful characters along the way, so it's good that you can manage that side of things.
Yeah, it's good. We don't worry. I think we've done that one.
Yeah, now, quick disclaimer, we talked about it at the start. So let's go through, what are you chatting about tonight, mate?
Well, mate, look, I think a lot of people don't even understand what a building consultant does. Like, everybody, I think, knows what a building and pest inspector does, particularly if you're purchasing established property. And then that kind of guy also does your building inspections on your new properties, particularly to make sure that your builders performed and got the job finished off to scratch. But building consultancy are a little bit more in detail than that. And there's a crossover between certainly certifiers and building consultants, but we do very specifically different things. So I was going to explain that to people. And certainly where engineers fit into the whole story as well, because once again, there's a crossover. There's building standards that we're both applying. And quite often I will refer to engineers, but they're kind of another level and they're more specific. So it's just helping people understand the difference between certifiers, engineers and building consultants.
Yep.
and services that we offer. So you'll notice the four little emblems there. Basically, they show up in all of my paraphernalia, whether it's on my website, whether it's in the banner on the badge behind me there.
Yep.
And then just, some questions to ask if you're looking to employ a building consultant, how you find a good one, certain things you need to know. A lot of people ring me up Matt, and go, oh, look, how much do you charge? And they don't ask anything else. It's just like, how much? And I think it's a very important question, but I also think, how would you know if it's good value for money or not if you don't actually understand what the consultant's going to do, how he's going to look at things, his methodologies and all that type of thing.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Hey, people that are watching, if you've got a question for Brent while he's here, just type it into the comments and I'll pass it on, guys. So while we're working through these slides, just let us know if you've got a question about your property or what Brent's talking about. Cool, let's go.
So what does a building consultant do? As it says there, building consultants offer a range of inspection and reporting services. And why you would use a building consultant as opposed to an engineer or a certifier. So engineers are very specific. Like, you probably won't get an engineer to stand up on top of a roof. So we comment on more than just structural items. Building consultants are going to look at the actual roof sheeting and the flashings and all the deck tights and the guttering and all that type of thing, and has that been installed correctly? Engineers are usually more structural type people. So we look at things more superficially, if you want to put it that way, as well as structurally. So there's a lot of costs associated with superficial items, if you want to call it that. Let's say you've got every single gutter in your house rusted out. Well, that's going to cost you a lot of money. And that could be more substantial cost than, say, having to, repair a deck that's got some foundation issues, if that makes sense. So your superficial items are just as important from a building inspector's perspective as what your structural items are. So building inspectors will look across the board. When there's something like more detailed or very serious, we will then go, right, you need an engineer to really detail to you how to repair that, what would be required. There might be a design for a foundation that needs to be done or some underpinning work or something like that. So engineers are much more structural and they're more specific. And certifiers, look, as a building consultant, I deal with a lot of illegal building work, as you can imagine, particularly in the established market, sometimes in the new market as well. People like to start work without getting correct approvals and things like that. They build stuff without actually going through that approval process. And it's very evident. As a building consultant, I can tell, this hasn't been done correctly. And I'll give you a very quick example, something like a pergola or a carport. It's very common to see them without guttering, and their connection points to the house never comply to the legislation and the required codes. So it stands out straight away. So there's a very, very specific comment that we would make, that you would need to talk to a certifier and ask what's involved to get approvals through. So building consultants don't do compliance approvals. However, you understand that crossover, Matt, where we got to know a little bit about that stuff so that we can make recommendation. Look, this structure's not approved or not approvable the way it is. It needs improvement.
Just being able to point it out, even for the lay person that just wouldn't pick up on it, or they're too caught up in other parts of the property and what they're going to do to it. Having someone like yourself point out these, they're obvious to you, but probably not to the everyday sort of buyer, and they can be big ticket items, that people need to know about before they get in.
Just like, if you've got a structural item where you need an engineer, if you need a certifier to get, let's say, retrospective approvals done, Matt, that can rack up into the thousands of dollars. By the time you employ a drafts person, and then you employ, the certifier, and you get your approvals through council, and then they say, we want all these improvements done, and we've got to connect up to the drainage. And before you know it, you've spent thousands of dollars to get an illegal structure approved. A really common one I see a lot of is people that buy the old two-story houses and they build them in underneath. Yep. And they just do it with their mates on a weekend, a few beers and a barbecue. Yep. And they make a complete new living space, but nothing is compliant.
Yeah. And agents don't tend to pick up on it or point it out. It can be often be marketed as a 5-bedroom house, but it's actually a 4-bedroom because none of it's actually legal, and it changes the whole shape of the deal and the feel of it.
It does, and look, I don't blame the agents. I mean, the agents are doing a job. If they see a bed in a bedroom and it looks like a bedroom, it smells like a bedroom, they're assuming it's a bedroom. But building consultants' perspective, we know the costs that our clients can incur if if that's missed.
Yeah.
And that's something they really need to know. It's a very big negotiating factor, and I see it as one of the top 4 things that I would report on. So we've got structural movement issues, water ingress issues, termite issues, and the final one is compliance issues. It's a significant cost.
Right, okay, cool. Mate, I'll move on to the next one there.
Sure. So another thing a building consultant does is new construction inspections. So some people may know them as stage inspections. There's a lot of writing here. I haven't looked at these slides for a while, mate, so I didn't have a chance to do it today, as I said I would. But an inspection and report can be done at any stage throughout the building process. It is reasonable under the QBCC legislation to request that the builder gives your representative site access to gain independent advice. Inspections and reports are recommended at 4 main stages. So I do 4. I tell people when they ring me up and they say, look, we're building a house, we've got a project on, when should we inspect it? I say do a pre-contract inspection if you haven't signed a contract with the builder, and I'll go and do a site assessment. I'll look at all of the complications with the block, the elevation, does it have easements, all these types of things, because that can determine the building process. And then I look at the documentation that the builder's given, and is that reflective of what the building process will be? So quite often they leave the retaining walls out, and I say to the owner, well, who's responsible for the retaining walls? You're going to have this big house in the way. They're going to do this big cut. What's happening with all the dirt that you've cut into? It's going to collapse into your block. Who's going to retain it? So it's like, that's a really basic one, but believe it or not, I've come across it. So
is this something where the financier would come in and check it as well, or are they employing you to do that, where at each stage of the construction, they want to have quality assurance that, the slab's gone in correctly and the frame's gone up? Is that where you're talking, where you come in, or is it they have their own authority to do that?
Yeah, so they're looking at purely from a security-based perspective, Matt. They're kind of going, well, we've got certain stage payments, and that's laid out in the contract. So basically, let's say that you've got a base payment. So when your slab is put down, the bank will come to make sure the slab's on the ground. They don't know whether it's built properly or not, or whether there's problems and construction issues they're going to develop. That's where I come in. But they want to make sure, well, we're about to hand over $100,000 for this earthworks and this slab. So we want to make sure it's there. So their inspection process is for a security purpose really only. My inspection process is the builder performing the work correctly? And so to make sure that we're circumventing issues as we need to. So that was what I was going to say. If you go back to that other slide, the next stage inspection, I don't actually recommend a slab inspection or a foundation inspection. A lot of companies do. I kind of feel like you've got engineers looking at that pre-pour. So they're looking at all the steel, the depth of the foundations, have they cleaned out, have they put the plastic in, all those things. Is the thickness of the slab going to be right with the boxing sizes? All of that is inspected. So you've got engineer certificates, Form 15s, 16s, and everything like that for your slab. I do a post-slab inspection. I check it for cracking. I check the pipe positions. I check the squareness of the slab and all those things. Engineers will miss that. The flatness of it, the finish of it. Will they have problems laying tiles on that surface? Is it dusty? All that type of thing. So you can do a slab inspection. But the next one I really recommend is what they call a frame inspection or a pre-sheet inspection. So essentially, once the house has been roughed in, or your plumbing or your electrics are in, your roof's on, your windows in, just before they sheet it and conceal the whole frame, I go in there and check it out then. And the multitude of problems I find builders will cover up inadvertently sometimes is really interesting. I've seen everything from massive spans, roof trusses that have been snapped and nobody's even seen them. I've seen plumbing position incorrect. I've seen the electricians have hacked out the trusses and compromised the structural integrity of the trusses, all sorts of stuff. So that pre-frame inspection tells me and helps me advise the client on so many facets of how professional the builder is. Are they performing the work? Have they coordinated it well? If the frame's gone all brown and grey, it's probably because they've taken too long to get the roof on, or the frame will twist and warp. That will determine the quality of your end product. So that frame inspection
that people aren't going to see. Once it's in the roof, you don't get up there and have a look. Once it's sheeted, you don't sort of see the timber frames behind it, so you can get away with it. It's a critical point in the deal. I just interrupt you there, mate. There's a question from Nathan that's coming. He's saying, do you do these kind of inspections for major renovations as well, like a lift up and build underneath? I'm assuming it's the same sort of process.
Very definitely. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the project is. It can be townhouses, units, renovation, lift, build under, extensions, new builds, low sets, high sets. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
Cool. And your contracts are very timed up the same, your progress payments. So there's always, these stages apply to just about any project.
Yeah, okay.
I'll just the final one is the practical completion. Well, this one moves on anyway, mate. The practical completion or handover inspection. This is before you hand the building over. The builder hands the building over. So this is the one that says, the builder says, I'm finished the job. Pay me my money and I'll give you the keys. That's a vital one. And I generally say, if there's no problems, if an owner is involved, watching you hit the progress of his works, he feels it's okay. There are other stage inspections you can do, like fixing stage and lock up and things like that. But I say, if the builder's going along nicely, just leave him alone. Let him do the project. Don't delay him. Don't create problems. A lot of these problems can be detected at the end, and generally they're minor. Right. And so if you move to the next stage, screen, Matt, this lays out, there's actually a definition in the Act. The QBCC Act has a definition for practical completion. A lot of people aren't aware of it. It's in the contract, but this basically says, can we occupy the building? And my job is to go out there and say, look, your builder has completed this, but there's these defects, and they may be minor and they're not going to impact anything, or they may be so many that you can't actually live in the place. I've seen everything from two-story houses that haven't been painted properly and finished right, and they're going to have to set the scaffold back up to get at it. Now, you can't live in that. It's still a construction site. Yeah. So a practical completion or handover inspector has to determine, is this place safe to live in and occupy, despite whether it's received compliance, because a compliance officer or a certifier, they're not really looking at quality. That's what my job is. They're looking at, does it comply? Have I got all of the certificates? Has it been completed? It's a different job. I'm looking at, well, hang on, that paintwork's just not up to scratch, or those gutters aren't falling properly. So it's a very intricate type job, and that can really delay the payment and determine the outcome of the quality of your work.
Yeah, and that's where you want to have an expected, before full payment comes through. Actually, Victor was just asking that if you're building a house, how many times should you be engaged to do the inspections and when? So are you engaged for the whole process, or do people need to contact you at different times of the deal?
Well, if you go back to the previous slide there, Matt, that basically lays it out. They're the ones that I recommend. Okay. The pre-contract, you could do a slab stage inspection, but as I said, engineers are generally involved with that. I'm happy to do it post-pour. But the big one is the pre-sheet or the frame inspection. Yep. Then the practical completion inspection. But there are other progress payments between the frame and the practical completion, being the lock-up when the place has been enclosed. Yep. That can be inspected there. The problem with doing an enclosed inspection or a fit-out inspection, like a fixing inspection when all the architraves and benches are in and cupboards and things, the work's not finished. So you're kind of looking at half-finished work. But when you're doing a frame or a slab inspection, that's it. It's done. They're moving on to the next stage. So that's the appropriate time to inspect it. And that's why I say leave it till the end. So these are the three that I really recommend. And then the fourth one is once it's done. So we've got new home warranty inspection reports. There are two stages that you can do a new home warranty report. The first one is after 12 months, prior to 12 months after the practical completion has been achieved. So essentially, when a building is finished, you've got 12 months under the QBCC insurance to have any minor defects rectified by the builder. And that's everything from, subsidence cracking and doorknobs or door locks not working, they've gone on the blinker mechanisms, that type of thing. It doesn't include wear and tear, but stuff that's not performing as it should after 12 months or prior to the end of the first 12 months, that's the first inspection. The next one is what they call the structural stage inspection, and that gives, here in Queensland, an owner 6 years and 3 months. So within 6 years and 3 months, you must inform the builder of any structural defects. So I'm not sure whether I've got this in any of these slides here, Matt. If you just tap forward, mate, the next one. No, it's not in here. I'll just explain it. But basically, with the structural warranty insurance, has 4 components. So if you feel you have a problem with your building within 6 years and 3 months, it has to fall within the structural criteria set out by the QBCC rectification of works policy. So that new home warranty inspection and report is either done for non-structural items within the first 12 months or structural items that fall within that rectification of works policy within 6 years and 3 months. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, that's the time to get the builder back before he's let off the hook, and then it all becomes the owner's responsibility after 6 years and 3 months.
Yeah, that's your last chance, so to speak. Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's a good question.
Yeah.
So I'd just like to reiterate to answer, was it Nathan's question?
Yeah.
That you can do an inspection at any time. Like if you're driving past the job every day and you think, geez, this builder's rough, or you're not quite sure, we can come in and represent at any point, and quite often it's advantageous. I kind of look at it and go, prevention's cheaper than the cure. And when you get a building consultant in, it's not like an owner talking to a builder. It's a builder talking to a builder. And I out-qualify a lot of the builders. So when I say something, it's within their best interest to listen because it can keep them out of hot water.
It can be pretty confronting too, if you haven't dealt with anyone in the construction industry before and you walk on site and you don't really know what you're talking about, it can be incredibly confronting. So having someone like yourself be able to stand in there for them and deal with the issues that are there at hand with authority can be really, really powerful for people.
Look, Matt, the building industry is a funny game. It's a man's game traditionally, and it didn't take much to get qualified to be a part of the building industry.
Yeah.
A lot of guys aren't highly educated. In saying that, the majority of builders out there, they're highly qualified, highly skilled professionals. They're business people. They've got a lot of legislative requirements and standards and acts and knowledge that they have to be aware of. And I would go as far to say that 80 to 85% of the market out there I deal with, it's only ever minor issues. But those 15% well and truly make up for the biggest of the issues. And they're bullies. A lot of these guys can be bullies. So having a building consultant that can represent, that knows the rules, that can explain the rules properly, I think it's why I'm employed.
Yeah. Hey, mate, we're running out of time, and I know you've got a fair few slides left. Do you want to skip to anything in particular to discuss?
No, mate, there was one more service. If we just go to the expert services, I think I often get up in front of the group at the beginning of the meeting.
That one there.
When it all goes to shit, you can use me as well. Basically, look, in the building industry, there'll always be dispute situations. And what you need is somebody that understands the rules, that is non-advocating and has had experience in court, whether it's the magistrate court or QCAT, the district court. I haven't done any work in the Supreme Court, but I have sat for days at a time being cross-examined by barristers in some of the other jurisdictions, with other experts explaining to judges and members, what a situation is. And so a building expert or consultant will be able to give good advice in a non-advocating way to a member on behalf of either party. So all parties should be able to rely on that information. So expert and court services is something else that that we do, that I do.
Yep.
And that's basically it, Matt. Like that's the four main services. That's why I keep coming back to the emblems, and that's all over my paraphernalia. So
just a quick one from Dion. He's just asked, what's covered by a structural warranty? Is that too broad a question, or can you answer that one?
Yeah, and look, there's information on my website. The QBCC has information on their website as well. But essentially, it's structural problems other than subsidence in the initial period.
Yep.
Anything that affects the health and safety of those residing in the property. So, that's a pretty big one.
Yep.
Make sure that people are safe. Any water ingress issues is another big one. So whether that's a leaking shower or a leaking roof or a wall that's seeping into a living area that can affect the occupation of the safety of the occupants.
Yep.
And then anything that's not operating as it should.
Yeah. Okay.
So if something's got a 30-year warranty and it's packed it in or it's not performing, that would be a structural based issue.
Yep. I've got your I know you got some really cool stuff on your site there. I've just got your last slide up there with the website if people want to check it out. And I know you got a really good that DIY property assessment tool and a bunch of other cool videos that it's well worth jumping on there, guys, and checking out what Brent does and some of the resources that he's got. Yeah, mate, awesome.
Yeah, mate, I think I got one of your recordings on there, and then I've put that tool there so that people can do their own little assessment, and then the obviously the recording we did at one of the meetings a number of years ago, they can go through that DIY tool and learn to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll come back and do that one next for you some stage later.
Yeah, mate, that sounds good. Yeah, no, it's been there is a bunch of really good recordings from you. Anyone that's in the Ultimate Property Hub will be able to access that as well. And like Brent said, there's some on his site there too, so check it out. Mate, we might wrap it up there. I know we could keep talking about this stuff because there's so much to go through, but you've given us a really good snapshot in what you do, what's possible, particularly what can go wrong. Some of the things that you've come across is really interesting. So, guys, I encourage you to get in touch with Brent wherever you are in your journey, because it's great to have you on the team. Yeah,
thanks, Matt, and always a pleasure to talk, and mate, and anyone in the property group meetup that I work for, I always give as much intel as I can, because this development and building game is not easy. And, the more good heads you got around you, the easier it gets. So.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. And you do look after us. You do look after the group really well, and we really appreciate that. Best way to get in contact with you is just jump on your website.
Website or phone number. I think all my details are in yours and my website. So don't hesitate to ring me.
We've just put all that up in the comments, guys, so it's clickable, and Brent's phone number's there too. So hopefully you don't get too inundated, mate. It's like 7:30 at night here, but jump on there and get in contact. And mate, thanks again. Thanks for your time tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks, Matt.
Awesome, mate.
Good
Cheers. Cheers, bye.